Good morning. So here we are beginning the harvest season in late August, and it starts often with the physical graffiti, and I don't have too many of these. I don't particularly care for it. Some bias, personal bias on my part with flavor and appearance, but aside from that, I want to talk about a couple of other things. Okay, granted, the plants are a little stressed. It's partially because they put on a lot of fruit. Well, that's a good thing. Except sometimes your fruit can just be a little too small. And some varieties are not very sweet when they're small. Not all varieties, but a good percentage of the varieties are not sweet when they're small. So I'm having to leave these on a little bit longer than I normally do with color. Oh, here's something I want to point out. See how this is not coloring uniformly here? You need to take these off, because what'll happen is they will color uniformly, and then you won't know that there's internal damage. Oh, just see, threw that on the ground. I'll come back to it, but let me pause here and cut it for you, just for this. Got distracted here. Okay, this wasn't what I had intended to show you, but you can still see my point here. So if you look right here, that's where there was a wound. It entered into the rind of the skin, right there on the right-hand corner, not the top bloom there, but right there on that right-hand corner. And that will result in coloration of the rind, premature coloration actually. And that will typically end up being a rotted fruit. Now in this case, we would have been able to determine it when it was mature, but in the case of blossom end rot, where it comes in here, right down that shaft there, then it will enter into the flesh right there, and you can miss it, because what will happen is the whole fruit will then color on maturity, and you won't know that there's internal damage. So whenever I see this discoloration before full maturity, I just cut them off. I usually have my clippers. So getting back with physical graffiti here, yeah, you get a lot of production, but heavy production can cause you small sizes. The other thing it can do is it can deplete the plant of resources for following up on a second closer wave, and there's just nothing coming on these, nothing at all. Okay, so I mentioned that I left fruit on the vines. This is what I had harvested already. This is, say on average, 12-ounce fruit. This is on average maybe 10-ounce fruit. I'll cut them. I don't like them. Here we are just before we cut them. You can see that they're not an exceptionally pretty fruit. Some would argue that I should leave them longer, but growing commercially, you can't really leave them much longer. The birds start to identify them as a food source, and then the flock will just increase once they've identified it.